The horse refused to jump, not because he couldn't, not because he was afraid, but because the jump wasn't perfect. For 3 months, Marcus watched his champion show jumper, Apollo, approach the same fence, measure it, study it, circle back, and refuse. Every single time. The fence was regulation height. The approach was clear. Apollo had jumped higher obstacles dozens of times before, but something had changed in his mind. He was waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect angle, the perfect conditions. And that perfection never came. Marcus, a former Silicon Valley engineer who'd left tech to become a horse trainer, recognized the pattern immediately. He'd seen it destroy careers, kill startups, and trap brilliant people in endless loops of preparation. He called it the perfect jump trap. And Apollo was about to teach him and eventually thousands of entrepreneurs the most expensive lesson about perfection. Waiting for flawless means you'll never start. Apollo wasn't always like this. 2 years earlier, he was fearless, a Dutch warmblood with Olympic potential, known for attacking jumps with confidence that bordered on recklessness. Marcus had bought him for $80,000, and within a year they were winning regional championships. But 6 months ago, something shifted. It started small. Apollo would hesitate for a second before a jump as if recalculating. Then the hesitations grew longer. Then he started refusing jumps altogether, not out of fear but out of doubt. Marcus tried everything. Vet checks showed Apollo was physically perfect. Saddle fit, bit adjustment, different riders. Nothing changed. Apollo would approach the jump, analyze it from every angle, and then simply stop, turn away, wait. A sports psychologist who worked with Olympic equestrian teams came to observe. After watching Apollo for an hour, she said something that stunned Marcus. "Your horse isn't afraid of failing. He's afraid of failing imperfectly." She explained, 6 months ago, Apollo had a bad jump at a competition, not dangerous, just awkward. He clipped the top rail, stumbled on landing, and the crowd gasped. He wasn't hurt, but something in his brain registered. I wasn't perfect. Everyone saw. From that day forward, Apollo's brilliant mind, the same intelligence that made him a champion, became his prison. He started overthinking every jump, searching for the perfect approach that would guarantee a flawless execution. And because perfection is impossible, he stopped jumping altogether. Marcus sat in the arena that night, watching Apollo graze peacefully, and had a flashback to his own life. 5 years earlier, he was a senior engineer at a promising startup. He'd spent 18 months designing what he called the perfect algorithm, a recommendation engine that would revolutionize e-commerce. He refined it endlessly: edge cases, optimization, stress testing. His boss kept asking when it would launch. Soon, Marcus always said. I just need to fix a few more things. The startup ran out of runway. They shut down before Marcus's perfect algorithm ever saw a user. A competitor launched a messier, buggier version 6 months later and got acquired for $200 million. Marcus's algorithm was technically superior, but it never mattered because it never started. He'd quit tech after that, burned out and disillusioned. Now watching Apollo refuse the same jump for the 97th time, Marcus realized, I didn't leave tech to escape perfectionism. I just brought it to the arena with me. The sports psychologist proposed something that sounded insane. Make him fail, deliberately. Create an environment where imperfect jumps are rewarded, not punished. Lower the stakes, remove the audience. Make failure boring and unremarkable. Teach his brain that good enough and done beats perfect and never. Marcus was skeptical. Apollo was a $200,000 asset by now, his value tied to his championship record. Intentionally teaching him to accept imperfection felt like sabotage. But what was the alternative? A champion who never competed was worth zero. So Marcus built what he called the imperfect arena. No more regulation jumps. Marcus set up a chaotic course, jumps at odd angles, uneven heights, mismatched poles. Some were laughably easy, some were awkwardly positioned. None were perfect. The rule: Apollo had to jump 10 obstacles every day. It didn't matter how. Sloppy? Fine. Knocked a rail? Great. Refused once but tried again? Perfect. The only failure was not trying. For the first week, Apollo was confused. He'd approach a crooked jump, clearly expecting Marcus to fix it. Marcus would just sit there waiting. Eventually, Apollo would jump, awkwardly, imperfectly, and Marcus would reward him immediately. No corrections, no analysis, just, you did it, that's enough. Week 2 was excruciating to watch. Apollo, who once had textbook form, was jumping like a beginner, launching too early, landing off balance, clipping rails constantly. Marcus's trainer friends who visited were horrified. "You're ruining him," one said. "He's forgetting everything he learned." But Marcus noticed something they didn't. Apollo was jumping again. 10 jumps a day. Some beautiful, most ugly, all done. And with every imperfect jump, Apollo's hesitation decreased. By week 3, he'd approached the chaotic course with something Marcus hadn't seen in months. Confidence. Not the confidence of perfection, the confidence of momentum. Week 4, Marcus ran an experiment. He set up a regulation jump, the same height and setup Apollo used to refuse. He expected hesitation. Apollo trotted up and jumped it without stopping. Clean, but not perfect. He clipped the rail slightly, and he didn't care. Marcus realized what had happened. Apollo's brain had recategorized failure. It was no longer this catastrophic, identity-threatening event. It was just data, feedback. A thing that happened and then you moved on. The psychologist explained it this way. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fragile identity. When your self-worth depends on flawless performance, every mistake feels like proof you're worthless. So you avoid mistakes by avoiding action. Apollo had learned that his worth wasn't tied to perfect jumps. He was valuable whether he cleared the rail or clipped it, and that belief unlocked him. Watching Apollo transform, Marcus had an uncomfortable realization. I'm still waiting for my perfect jump. For 2 years, he'd been planning to launch an online course for horse trainers, his real passion project. He had outlines, scripts, equipment, but he kept finding reasons to delay. The lighting isn't professional enough. I need better editing software. I should get certified in sports psychology first. Every excuse was valid. None were the real reason. The real reason he was terrified of launching something imperfect and having people see it. So one night, Marcus did something radical. He set up his phone, recorded a 10-minute training video in his barn with terrible audio and shaky footage, and uploaded it to YouTube with zero editing. Title: How I Fixed My Horse's Perfectionism and My Own. It was objectively bad. The framing was off. He stumbled over words. The horse wasn't even visible half the time. He almost deleted it 5 times before hitting publish. The video got 47 views in the first week, 12 likes, 3 comments, all encouraging. It wasn't viral. It wasn't perfect. But it was done. And that changed everything. Marcus filmed a second video the next day. Then a third. By week 4, he had 15 videos published. Some good, most mediocre, all imperfect. Video number 9 hit 12,000 views. Someone shared it in an equestrian forum. People started asking questions. Marcus launched his course, still imperfect, still full of things he wanted to improve, and made $8,000 in the first month. 6 months later, that imperfect course was generating $40,000 a month. A year later, Marcus had trained over 2,000 horse owners, many of whom told him the same story Apollo had lived. I was waiting for everything to be perfect before I started. Your course taught me to just start ugly. What Marcus and Apollo experienced has a name in psychology: analysis paralysis, driven by perfectionism as a defense mechanism. Research from Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck shows that perfectionists aren't pursuing excellence. They're avoiding judgment. Their brain calculates, if I never finish, I can never fail publicly. If I keep preparing forever, no one can say my work wasn't good enough. But there's a paradox. The pursuit of perfection guarantees mediocrity, because anything trapped in endless refinement never reaches the world where it can improve through real feedback. The antidote isn't lowering standards, it's embracing iteration. Every tech company knows this. Launch the MVP, minimum viable product, get feedback, improve. V1.0 is supposed to be imperfect, but perfectionists treat V1.0 like it's their only shot, so they never launch it. 8 months after Marcus built the imperfect arena, he entered Apollo in a regional championship, the same event where Apollo had his bad jump that started the whole spiral. Apollo wasn't flawless, he knocked 2 rails. His approach on one jump was sloppy. By his old standards, it was a mediocre performance. He placed 3rd, not 1st, not perfect, and Marcus had never been prouder, because Apollo competed. He faced the same environment that once paralyzed him and kept going. When he clipped that rail, Marcus watched his ears. They didn't flatten in shame. They flicked forward in focus. Data received. Move on. That attitude, good enough to start, refined through doing, turned Apollo back into a champion. Not because he became flawless, but because he became consistent. A regra dos 10 saltos imperfeitos. Marcus started teaching the Apollo method to other trainers. The core principle: do 10 imperfect reps before you're allowed to refine one. Whether it's jumping, launching a business, creating content, or learning a skill, your first 10 attempts should prioritize completion over quality. Why 10? Because by rep 10 you have real data. You know what works, what doesn't, and where to improve. But if you spend 10 weeks perfecting rep 1, you have theory, not insight. Marcus applied this to everything. Filmed 10 ugly YouTube videos before investing in editing software. Taught 10 rough draft courses before building the polished version. Trained 10 horses with the imperfect arena before writing the methodology book. Every time the 10th iteration was better than the perfect first version he'd been planning would have been, because it was built on real experience, not imagined scenarios. Marcus calculated something chilling. If he'd launched his course 2 years earlier, imperfect, rough, not ready, at even half the price, he would have made an extra $200,000 by now. But more than money, he would have helped 5,000 more horse owners. He would have gotten 24 months of feedback to improve the product. He would have built relationships and reputation. Instead, those 2 years were spent waiting, preparing, refining something that didn't exist yet. He called this the perfection tax, the invisible cost of opportunities never taken because they weren't flawless enough. Marcus now teaches a simple framework. Perfect is the enemy of started. Started is the enemy of stuck. Your first version will be bad. That's not a bug, it's the entire point. Bad V1.0 becomes good V2.0 becomes great V5.0. But if you're trapped refining V0.5 forever, you never get to V2.0. Apollo taught him that the best jumps aren't flawless, they're completed. And the best careers, businesses, and creative works aren't the ones that waited for perfect conditions. They're the ones that started ugly and iterated forward. If you're waiting for perfect conditions, perfect skills, or perfect confidence before you start, you're not preparing. You're hiding. The market doesn't reward perfect. It rewards done. Customers don't choose flawless products that don't exist. They choose imperfect products that solve their problem today. Take the jump. Clip the rail if you have to. But take it, because the only guaranteed failure is the jump you never attempt.